Hi, I'm Bryce Rosenbaum, realtor at Harcourt's Real Estate Network Group, and to the left of me is
Mitch Fotef. I'm with Harcourt's as well. Today we're going to be talking about comparable market analysis, or a CMA.
good old CMAs.
Mm-hmm.
So CMAs, essentially, Mitch, are how realtors create market value or create the value in which we're going to list a property, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to be able to put this video together, or Mitch and I wanted to put it together, to kind of relate it to the market and to the public of what all goes into a CMA and how us crazy realtors come up with a value that we can sell your home for.
Mm-hmm. A little bit better than his estimate, hopefully.
Heck of a lot better than this estimate, and we're going to tell you why. So just to start off, if you do choose a wonderful agent like Mitch or myself, we'll start by doing a walkthrough of your home. That's when we'll schedule a time, usually 30 minutes to an hour. Walk through your home. You'll be able to explain to us all the different things you've done throughout the years, remodeling, upgrades, maybe some things that have happened that are adverse, effects of the property.
I want to go everywhere too. I want to go in the attic. I want to try and look in the crawl space. I want to see every little thing that I possibly can.
Yep.
Have you put in, how old's the roof? How old's your HVAC system? How old's your AC unit? I want to know every little thing that you have done that either makes your house a little bit better than the next one, or tells me where we need to be and comparable to another house. So.
Right, and a lot of what we're doing while we're there is also getting a feel for the neighborhood, getting a feel for how your house is positioned on your property, what sort of things that you've done to the property that could be positive impacts to your marketability.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the big factor when comparing a Zestimate versus a realtor CMA, is we have the human hands-on approach of figuring what the marketability, market value is of your property.
Absolutely.
And so once we gather, we take notes, we're doing our walkthrough, we then will go back and we pull algorithms just like Zillow or some of the other websites or analytical companies do.
Mm-hmm. I think each of us have our own, I know I have my own system for how I go into and look at a property in RMLS. I have a system for how far away I'm gonna go for each house, how many square foot that I would consider a home, bedrooms, bathrooms. I wanna be as specific as I possibly can to that next house. I mean, if a house has 2 bathrooms and the other one has 1, that's not even something I'm looking at.
Right.
It has to be very, very similar. Otherwise, it's not even worth a second one.
Yep, I totally agree. And that's a common misperception, is that just because a house is sold in your neighborhood, that it's a good comparable to your property. And that's just frankly not true.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through an example. I think it might be fun. Let's say that we've gone to a house off of Railroad Avenue in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Split level. How many split levels do we see over there? How many have you sold? It's quite a few, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
So we walked through a house that's split level, built in 1975, 2,100 square feet, 4 bedroom, 3 full bathrooms, and a 2-car garage.
Okay.
The house, we're trying to figure out what we could sell for.
Okay.
What sort of comps are you going to be pulling? Obviously, Milwaukee has a ton of 1 levels. Are you going to be pulling any 1 levels?
Probably not. Okay,
Probably
so
not.
first I'm going to start with my radius search, right? So I'm going to start at about a quarter mile, look at every house that's in a quarter mile radius. If I can get 10 comps, then I'm not going any farther. I'm going to stick at a quarter mile. If I can get 10 comps within that short little area, then I know that's as close to the property as I possibly can be. I want to be within 300 square foot. So if something's a little bit more than that, I might take it into account. But my goal is to get within 300 square feet up or down of my property. I'm going to stick with exactly 4 bedrooms. I'm going to really try and get 3 bathrooms. But if it has 2.5, I would say that's worth looking into. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. I think a 2 bathroom versus a 3 full, a 2 full versus a 3 full, you could still be a good comp if need be.
Yep.
What we would then do on the back end is make an adjustment of, let's say, $10,000.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, I think, just comes to experience too, of just us knowing how much to adjust for this or that.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna look at garages. I want to make sure that it has an attached garage. If something happens to have a pool, I'm pretty well throwing that out. Are you throwing out the house that has a pool?
It depends how good of a comp it is.
Okay.
If it's like the house next door, similar square footage, it sold 2 months ago, I'm gonna take that into account. I think in Oregon, you know, as far as appraisal purposes, a pool is a positive.
Yep.
In Oregon, it can actually be a negative to your market value. I mean, it's frankly like you really don't get to use it as much as we'd all like to.
There are pool people and non-pool people.
Yep, that's exactly right. So it can work for you or against you.
Yep.
So I think it could be used as a comp, but
Okay.
ideally not.
Okay, but if you're comping a pool house, you're pretty much only comping houses with pools,
Yep,
right? Like,
correct.
if it doesn't have a pool, you're gonna really try to not look at it.
If it's a house with a pool, I want to look for every single house in a pool. And if I don't have it in a quarter mile, I'm going to go further out to a half mile.
Yep.
Don't have it in a half, go out to 1. Don't have it in 1, go out to 2 miles. And this is more for urban properties. When you're comping out a rural property out in Clackamas County or Washington County or wherever else, you know, Yamhill County, you're going to have to go further out just because there's, you know, it's not as dense.
Yeah.
There's not as many homes to be able to use as comparables.
And when I'm looking at that radius search, like for the most part, I'm not gonna get 10 houses within a quarter mile. So usually I'm gonna jump to a half mile to 3/4 of a mile. My goal is to get as many comparables as I can within 3/4 of a mile, usually is my goal.
Yep.
If I can get to, you know, if it doesn't work and I gotta go to 1, you know, I'm using my experience, I'm using my knowledge, how much am I adjusting for this neighborhood to that neighborhood?
Right.
You know, and a lot of that is just kind of feel, and that's just being in business, but.
Yeah, and if you don't have the experience, you know, of course you can figure it out. You know, figuring out where the school line boundaries are, because that comes into play, and a lot of different factors like that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, so we've already talked about bedroom count, bathroom count, garage count, square footage plus or minus 300 square feet roughly, and also property style. You know, obviously a split level is going to comp differently than a 2-story craftsman or a single-story ranch. You know, and so what about as far as days on market or how many months back you're going?
Days on market's different. Right now, I don't think I'm going past whatever, gosh, March or May of April of this year. Whenever rates turn, when the market started to turn is about my breaking point as of this moment. Yeah. Was it July?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about my breaking point of when I'm thinking like, if it was on the other side of that, I'm adding, you know, 25, 50 grand because that was a different world than we're in today. So ultimately my goal was 9 months, but because the market shifted, well, I guess it was about 9 months ago now, but I want like market is I think our goal, you know.
Yeah.
I want to compare a house that's in a like market that we're in today. And so if it's on the other side of that, it's, you know, probably not much of a great comp at this point.
Right. And so you kind of have to pick and choose a little bit because obviously, you know, ideally you find comps that are super close, very similar, and you're able to put together a pretty easy market value. If you don't, you're going to have to kind of pick and choose of what is most important for marketability. You know, is it that you really, are we going to be going back, you know, 6-7 months ago in a different market and using that as a comp, or would you rather push it out to 1.5 miles to be able to use a comp that just sold last month? For me, I want recent sales. I like to be within a 2-month range. I mean, everyone has different. 6 months is kind of what they typically will teach new realtors. I'd like to stay in like the 2-month range as far as, you know, closed homes. Pending sales, I don't weigh much of a factor. What I'll do is if I have a pending sale that's similar to the house that I'm trying to put a market value on, I'll reach out to the agent and see what kind of, you know, what kind of information I can get.
How cool that agent is to us to give us the information. But if that agent's cool and gives us the information I want, like I'm definitely using that pending sale, right?
Yep.
But if I don't get much, not much and active sales, I would say unless I see it's like a hot property and it's something that I know is priced pretty well, and I might call the agent and say like, hey, you know, you got multiple offers on this thing. But for the most part, like the active sale is about useless, other than I want to be, typically if it's a light property, like I want to be below that house. Like I want to, because I want people to look at my house over that house, right? So my goal would be to be below whatever my competition is at, if I can get, you know, the seller to do so.
Yeah, and frankly, if the house is very similar, square footage, bedroom, bathroom, neighborhood, and it's not selling, the only thing that you can do is price. Yeah. And so you come in 5 grand, 10 grand below that, and you're obviously looking a lot more attractive than that.
In fact, there is nothing else actually that's more important than
Price. Yep.
Period.
And it's always better to list, at or a little bit below market value than to list high. And this is another big misconception for people, is that you never want to be able to or try to chase the market. And what I tell my sellers is, if we're on the market for 3 weeks without a good showing or a really good offer, or lots of showings, you're too high. I mean, and we know the marketing is good. We know we're marketing in the best light possible. We've done open houses. We're hitting it hard.
Yeah,
all things equal, it's price.
And it's probably 2 weeks if we're really being honest about it. But 3 weeks, like, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt of it, right? But
in this market, it takes a little bit longer to sell things.
Yeah. Although, in January, February of this year, it was about 2 days. So. I can tell you in about 2 days whether your house is going or something.
We went by the hours.
Yeah. Exactly. We're a little different market than we are then.
Right. Yeah. So, we hope this is helpful. Today's goal was just to try to give you guys a snapshot of what all goes into a CMA and kind of the big differences between a Zestimate or some of the other, companies out there that will give you estimations of your value, of your market value.
I think it's everything though. Like everything, so much of what I'm talking about, like when you're talking about, I'll look at a house that's sold a year and a half ago, like it's your knowledge, your experience, everything that you've done that's gonna make those little adjustments. Like it's not a perfect formula that you're saying, well, it was this long ago, so I'm gonna make it X amount higher. It's all your feel. It's everything that you've done over the last year and a half that kind of tells you, like, okay, this is where I would adjust here, is where I would adjust here. Like someone who's never done this before is not gonna be able to have that sort of experience. It'd be like me going to your job, some other random job, and say, well, I come in and just tell you exactly how to do your job. Never done it before, but it takes a lot of time and experience in figuring out, like, why am I adjusting this amount? Like, why is your house here and not here?
Right. And big data will never replace the human element of real estate.
I don't think so.
We've seen so many of these iBuyer companies come and go, and it will continue to be that way because it is such an emotional transaction, a human element. You can't take an algorithm and be able to really get a feel for what that house is like. And the last question, and then we'll get it wrapped up. What's it cost? Let's say I am wanting to put my house on the market. I'm kind of kicking around the idea of selling. What's it cost for you to come do a CMA on my property?
For you, like $5. But for the norm,
Not for me. It's hypothetical. Okay.
It's a big zero. I mean, if you're charging people to look at your house, you're not in the right business.
Right.
It's all about you. It's a zero. It's 100% zero.
Yep. So just keep that in mind. If you ever are wanting to know what your market value is, it does not cost you anything to do so. So reach out to Mitch, reach out to me, and we'd be happy to help you out.
I think right now, actually, I'm going through and doing CMAs for all of my past clients.
Yep.
Especially in this new market, trying to give them somewhat of an idea of where they're at now.
Yeah, because everyone's curious. You read national news, you think, oh my gosh, the sky's falling. Is this really where we're at? Have I lost 50 grand value? Because that's what Zestimate says.
I'll tell you this,
let's pump the brakes real quick.
Every house I called on this weekend had an offer on it. Wow. Every single one. Granted, it's only 2, but
you took second in a 2-man race,
I was so surprised though. I mean, like both houses have an offer on it. That's not what the media is saying. Like both of those are not supposed to have any offers.
Yep.
You're struggling to get anything, so that's not really the vibe that I'm getting.
No, you can't trust everything you hear on the media. So feel free to reach out to us if we ever can be a resource for you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.